Hi friends, my name is Sarah and this is my channel, The Rocking Chair Stitcher. If you've never been to my channel before, thank you so much for checking out one of my videos, and if you enjoy it, please like and subscribe down below. And if you're coming back from previous videos, thank you. I'll give you a little update on our life. There's been a lot going on this year and we're only into March. If you hear silly sounds, my son is right above me in his nursery and supposed to be napping, but he just went down and he's currently giggling and jumping in the crib. So if you hear that, that is what that sound is. Little life update. My husband and I have decided to move from Nova Scotia back to Ontario to be closer to his side of the family. And this is something we've been working through for a bit, and so now we're getting renovations done in our house and researching homes in Ontario and all the things of renovating and planning a move. If you've ever done any of those things, you know it's a lot. So really trying to stay present in the day-to-day, as my brain tends to jump all over and zoom out and look at the whole picture, and there's so many details. So I'm trying to just focus on the day's tasks that are at hand and not stress too much about figuring everything out. So as of this point, we do not know which city or town we're going to live in. It'll be Southern Ontario, so if by some chance somebody watching this lives in that area, when we get there, I'd love to connect. If you know of any LNSs in Southern Ontario, I'd also love to know about those too. I do think there's one in London so far I've found. But yeah, that's kind of our life news right now. Justin is doing really well. He's taking more and more steps by himself, not prompted. Josh has been busy with work and busy with home renovations, and I've been kind of in the mix of that too, and then working on a new cross stitch design and all the other stuff that life brings. So, but we're doing good. Feeling more rested and hearts at peace, I guess, which is nice. So I thought I would share with you some of my stitching today. I did not write notes, but I have my book of days, so I'm really hoping that that will help me stay a little bit organized. So I looked back at my last Flosstube to see when the last one I did was, and then I just went to my book of days from there so I could see what have I stitched on since then and got everything out. So I feel like I'm not a monogamous stitcher, not at all, but I feel like I've been a little more that direction, like only working on a few things, but a lot more. So I do have a finish, so I wanted to share that. This sweet little birdie, which I'm very excited about. And I have another one, I think it's a blue jay or a bluebird, that same idea in a wreath. So this is by Soda Stitch Design, and someone commented, I was on a stitching video call, and they said, that's nothing like I've ever seen a Soda Stitch design look like. I was like, I know, not me either. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, I want to stitch that. So Josh got me this pattern for Christmas, as well as the little bluebird. So there are a bunch more. I don't think they're all winter themed either, but I just thought it was such a pretty stitch. And I absolutely love the wreath, and it's just simple and beautiful. So love nature. So what I want to do is frame it in a circle, kind of vintagey frame. And I've been looking online, and I was thrifting yesterday, but I didn't see anything. Someone recommended to me to find a square frame that has circular matting inside, so it still gives that circle look. I like that idea as an alternative, and I think that may be what I end up going with if I don't find something. I'm just looking, if you know of any good circular frames out there or options that have circle frames. I prefer not wood for this one. I'm seeing something in my head, you know, you get that picture of something, but you don't know quite how to voice it. Kind of more ornate, kind of like, pardon my reach, kind of like this frame. This is a plastic one, but just something more antique-y, vintagey. There's a little peek of baby Sarah and baby Josh before he had facial hair. Yeah, anyway, so a frame, something like this I would love. I'm not stuck on a certain color, although gold, like that kind of look, I'm all for too. But this, something like this would be great. I just think they would yeah, but I need a source, or would like a source that so I can get multiple, even if they're not exactly matching, but kind of the same style. Multiple, because I want to do at least the other pattern that Josh got me of the bird, but maybe more of the series down the road as well. And I guess that's so funny, I didn't even think about it. Our anniversary is next week, and so this was one of our engagement photos we took. We'll be married 8 years next week, which sounds like nothing when I hear some of you guys talk about marrying like 30, 40, 50 years. But it's so funny because to me it feels like, how has it already been 8 years? But still my best friend. So I'm still contemplating what I want. I want to do an anniversary stitch. Our anniversary is March 26th, so I'm hoping to stitch on something every month on the 26th, just like, you know, as a fun little way of honoring that every month and just make it something special. But I haven't picked one yet. I've been debating back and forth between one, but yeah, I'm still on the hunt. So, but that is my finish. At this stage of life, I am still cross stitching, but because there's so much else going on, I am not focusing on finishing right now, and I'm not even like putting a lot of effort into trying to think about finishing, other than just kind of looking online for circular frames. I've always kind of been like, finish something and then fully finish it has kind of, for the most part, been how I've done my stitching for the last almost year. But with everything coming up, I'm already starting to box stuff up in our house so that we can get it more and more ready to show and to take photos for the listing and all that. This is probably going to go away in my stitching box for now, and then once we get settled in Ontario, I will think about fully finishing objects. So that's my one finish. And then I did have this finish, I believe, by my last Flosstube. I think I did show it. This is the birth sampler for my friend, and she had her baby, healthy baby. I'm not going to share any details about the baby because it's the internet and I don't want to put that out there. So I have not done the stitching. She has a baby shower coming up at the end of the month, so I've got a little bit of time left. I've got the letter chart and everything that the pattern comes with, but my brain is just having a little hard time thinking about how to chart it out to where it's all symmetrical. So I've got to figure that out. But I went ahead and I stitched, if I can hold this right, and my iron died. I was gonna iron everything and be like really bougie, but my iron died, so I went ahead and just stitched a quick little stitch across that I am gonna pull out, but that was just so I could get a count of my exact spacing so I can chart it out online. So my goal is to try to actually FFO this for her shower at the end of the month. So I've got a little bit of time left. I'm going to frame it is my plan, so I gotta go to the store and find a pretty frame. We might be going up towards where there's a Michael's because we don't have one close by. It's like an hour and a half, so we might be going up that way for our anniversary anyway, so I'm hoping to pick one out there. And then I had a start over. What's the stitching lingo for this? I have no idea. On Quaker Flag Sal, I have been all over the place with this stitch. I started it, I don't remember now on what count, and I could not see it. And I was having a very hard time, like, because there's a lot of stitching in the Quaker Flag Sal. It's beautiful, but it is a lot of stitching. And I was finding on that small count, I could not see it, and I was avoiding it completely. The other thing I was coming across was my fabric was too light, because the pattern calls for gray instead of white in the Canadian flag, and that was bugging my brain. Like, the Canadian flag has white and red, and that's okay, that's a pattern, but my brain was like, it needs to be white. So then I did white, and on that fabric the white was not showing up at all, and so I was like, okay, what can I do? So I went and I found this fabric at Michael's when we were up there picking up renovation supplies several weeks back, and I restarted it. It's a massive piece of fabric, so I have never stitched on something this large. I went with, I think this is an 18 count, and my problem, it's super stiff, right? So my problem is I'm having a very hard time holding it to work on this, and I'm not really sure what other options I have other than a giant hoop, which I do have a larger one, but I feel like it doesn't hold the same kind of tension. So I'm not really sure. I'm avoiding this stitch, to be perfectly honest, because I'm not really sure the best way to clasp it in something. So I've never tried a Q-snap or a frame, so I don't know if something like this size needs to be in something like that. So if you have any advice, I am all ears. But I did get a small start back on it again, and it was much easier for my eyes to see. So yeah, that is, if I'm 100% honest, there's a potential I am not going to do this project like this, and I'm going to go for a third piece of material and try again, because something about this is just not working for my brain either. So maybe I'll go back, find what material I was using, and dye it, like tea dye it or something so it's darker so the white shows. I'm not sure. But anyway, that is the status with Quaker Flag Style. I love the pattern. I just can't seem to get my ducks in a row with the fabric and the floss that I like that make it all come together and that I can see. But so that's where that is. And then I have where was, okay, so this is a pattern I've been chatting about for I don't know how many floss tubes now, telling you I'm gonna start eventually, and I really want to. This is by a new creation studio, and it says, "My soul finds rest in God alone," and that is a psalm from the Bible. And I have some friends who went through some really hard stuff back in December, and a really big loss. All loss is significant, of course, but it just really, really painful time that they're dealing and going through. So I'm working on this stitch as a gift for them. It's going to be a while still coming, because I'll probably tuck it away once I finish it and eventually get it framed and send it to them. But that is something I've learned over the last couple of years, is when you lose someone, there's lots of attention and cards and notes and beautiful things at the beginning, which is great. But a lot of the time, not long after that, everyone kind of forgets. And that's life. And like when someone else loses someone, I forget, and you just kind of move on with your life. But the person grieving is still going through that grief. So my thought is maybe on the 1-year anniversary, I'll mail it to her, or I'm not sure yet. But it has been really sweet to stitch. I do not have the greens that I need, so I've got them in my cart on 1-2-3 Stitch and just waiting to see if I'm going to purchase a couple other things. But it has been really sweet to stitch, and it's a good reminder for myself to find my rest in God. So I do eventually want to stitch this for my own home to put on my wall, but I thought it's a nice medium-sized stitch that I can gift, and gifts are my love language, and if I can find a way to make something and turn it into a gift, that's like, my day is made. I feel like I've been given a gift by getting to do that. So that is, I'm always like, well, I'm gonna use some gift budget to make somebody something. So then I still have my craft budget and then my gift budget. But no, it's a lot of fun to make people handmade with love gifts. So then the last thing I've been working on is another one of my own designs. I feel like a broken record in saying it's not done yet. I'm in the middle of stitching it. My vintage ribbons design, I just haven't pulled out. I got distracted by this idea. And if you create things, whether it's patterns or some other hobby or whatever, if you create things, maybe you know what I'm talking about, that like ADHD brain kind of like, oh, I'm making this, I'm in love with it, and then you get a new idea and your brain just goes. And I really have tried hard to hone that down a bit in the last couple of years, of focus on what you're doing right now, finish it, and then start that new idea. Take some notes, and then, but this idea, it won. So vintage ribbons that I'm working on that showed in my last floss tube, I will get back to, I will finish, and I will release that pattern eventually. But this pattern has taken over my brain. So there have been a handful of houses throughout the 4 years we've lived in Nova Scotia that, that as we drive past, every time I'm just like, oh, those are beautiful. Oh, I love them. Something about them catches my eye, my attention. And the creative side of my brain's like, what do I do with that information? And then when I started cross-stitching last year, and then when I started drawing out some of my own designs and cross-stitching them, every time I would see these houses, when I would drive to these different towns and cities, I would be like, oh my goodness, that needs to be cross-stitched. So I have dreams in my head of stitching each of these houses that like have stuck in my mind as I've driven past them. But last time we were up getting renovation stuff, we were in this town called New Minas, Nova Scotia, and there is a house there that's right by the highway. And every time I see it, my brain, like since I started cross-stitching, is like, that's a cross-stitch pattern. And so last time we were up there, we were getting stuff to build a shower and the new bathroom and stuff. I was like, I'm gonna take a picture. So I'm like snapping photos as we get on the highway and everything. Well, I looked up the house because I thought, wouldn't it be fun to tell a little bit of story about that home? Because it's very historical looking. and couldn't find anything about it historically. So maybe I should call the library. I don't know. Anyway, so I would like to dig a little further to see if I can find something about it particularly, but it's on Prospect Road. So that's where the name Prospect House came from. And these are pretty much its colors. The roof color is a little bit more probably like a black tone, and I went more brown. As far as I know, there's no history of lemons or lemon trees or anything around it, but it produced this idea in my head. So this is Prospect House. So you might be able to imagine the style of the house. And I have never really stitched a big house before, I don't think. And I'm actually really enjoying it. Really enjoying doing all the detailing along the sides. So of course, you know, I'm still missing half my house, and it'll be framed with the rest of this simple frame. And the yellow is getting so washed up, but such fun pops of lemony yellow. So I am really enjoying stitching this. So my hope is to release this one by, I don't know, May. Let's set a goal. We're gonna say this is gonna be released by May, guys. We'll see. Don't hold your breath. But I am really enjoying stitching this one. I like the bright pop of yellow, especially when it's been grayer days. We've now gotten sunshine. We've entered into sunshine in spring, but there's definitely been some gray days, so it's been fun to stitch on. And I really enjoy this at night because there's a fair amount of block stitching in the roof and in the walls, and that's been fun. So this is Prospect House, and if you're eager to stitch it, send me a message. You could buy the pattern early, but if not, it'll be up on my Etsy in the coming months, and that has been really fun to stitch. My thought is I would like to make a special wall in whatever home we buy next that has literary and movie like kind of stitches and location based, so things that are sentimental to us. Yeah, and then I'll do my other kind of floral and birds kind of stitching wherever else in the house. But I tend to stitch something and then give it as a gift. So I also want to keep some stitching for my house, so we shall see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pause this, I think, to show you some of my haul, because some of it, actually, I can bring it up on my phone. That's right. So I participated in a swap, which was called the Kitted Up Swap. It was on, hosted on Instagram. I don't know if I'm going to say their username properly or not, so I'm just going to pull it up. I think it's pronounced Chinook, but I'm not sure. Chinook or Chinook Stitcher. So they hosted this as well with, look at my organization, guys, with Plexi. I always call them Plexi Stitch in my head, but that's not what their Instagram handle is. Plex, I-C-H, Plexi. I can't say it. Anyway, so they hosted, doing great here, guys. They hosted a swap called the Kitted Up Swap, and it started in October or November. And the idea what came from a conversation that some people had about having like a personal shopper for you, basically, for your cross stitch supplies. So what happened was they created these tiers, and you could do, they were by price category basically, and I chose like the highest level one. I was like, I'm gonna go all in, this is fun. So basically you got a wish list from their 1-2-3 stitch wish list or an Etsy wish list, that kind of thing, and you purchased a pattern or patterns off of their wish list, and then you kitted it up. And so you could choose, they answered some questions whether they liked like substitutions for, you know, brands of floss, that kind of thing, but you would kit it up. So I cannot find part of my kit that I received in February. Oh boy, just knocking everything over. With all the chaos of the renovations, stuff is kind of in abnormal places, and I have no idea where the floss is, but she gave me beautiful silk floss, which I've never worked with before, and they're in these cute little containers. So that is all kitted up and ready to go. She purchased me if you weren't sending a physical pattern, you could send a digital, and so she sent me a gift card for the Liz Matthews, oh my goodness, Pumpkin House, I think is what it's called. brain. Hello from Liz Matthews. And it is, you guys all know what I'm talking about without me even having to show you. I'm like, if I cannot imagine someone has not seen this pattern yet. The pumpkin house from Hello from Liz Matthews. So I purchased that pattern. So my plan is to get it all printed out, and then I've got everything else if I can just figure out where I put the silk floss. But she sent other good little treats in there that were so fun. A beautiful card, and then these cute little scissors that have a cap, and they're really nice and tiny and sharp, which is really nice for cutting floss. Then she custom made me with a friend. I think maybe this is resin, I'm not sure, or hard plastic of some kind. She custom made me rocking chair needle minders, because in the questionnaire they asked us when we did the swap at the beginning was, is there anything like, I guess like doodads that you don't have that you would love to have? And I was like, at the time I didn't have any needle minders. And I think I said that, and I said, I have been hunting for a rocking chair needle minder. And I've still, after that, I still kept looking for them. I was like, if I find one, I'm buying one. And could not find any. So she, I believe, stamped these and then colored them in, and then her friend created them into needle minders for me. So she sent like 5 or 6 or 7 of these. So I have one in almost every project bag now. So I absolutely love these. And so fun since I have the whole rocking chair thing. So yeah, so that was a fun treat to find in there. I'm not remembering 100% what all was in there, and if I'm forgetting stuff. But she saw on my Instagram, she stalked me on Instagram for a while to see what my style was and what kind of things I used. She sent me this really fun fabric. I think it's a 14 count. I have to measure. I think it's 14 count. So when she saw that I like to do my words, guys, my Christmas ornaments, she said that's what this fabric made her think of. So she just threw that in there as an extra. And then she hand dyed the fabric for me for the Hello from Liz Matthews. So she gave all these explanations in with the package. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to use it for this pattern, simply because the orange tone of the bottom, I'm afraid the floss might blend in and you won't be able to see the pumpkins. But I'm undecided. But she hand dyed this, and I thought that was so cool. So she said, if you don't want to use it for that, you can just chop it in half and use it for something different. So I really have no idea whether or not I'll use it for that specific project. It will definitely get used. I have not hand dyed anything yet because I'm too nervous, but I love when I see other people doing it. So if you've seen anybody do the Hello from Liz Matthews pumpkin house with a bottom that's more orangey brown, if you would let me know. I've been looking on Instagram, but you know, the whole thing with the hashtags, having a hard time making that work, but trying to find if anybody's done it on a more brown dyed bottom and still be able to see the pumpkins. I thought about going really rogue and stitching it upside down and stitching the house on, like, imagine this kind of more sunset and then the midnighty kind of, I don't know. So I thought about being really weird. I don't know measurement wise. I think the blue is a little longer. It might be even though. The blue is a little longer, so I don't know if the bottom would be, or the top would be big enough for the house. Either way, a beautiful piece of fabric. So I really enjoyed opening that package, and it came on a hard day, so it was a nice little treat. And then the last thing that came in that package was this beautiful project bag that she made me. And so the person who ended up getting me in the swap was actually the Chinook Stitcher. Chinook Stitcher? My brain. I'm not sure. Chinook. Yeah, Chinook Crafter. So she made me this really beautiful project bag. And so this now houses another project. Oh yeah, My Soul Finds Rest. So it's already been put to use. And whenever I start the pumpkin patch, pumpkin house, the pumpkin pattern, whatever it's called, it will live in here. And then the last thing I got was just some haul I found yesterday, actually. I usually don't have this much haul in one video. I was out for a dentist appointment, and Josh took the day off so he could work on some home reno stuff, and so he stayed home and watched Justin. And as I was heading out the door, he's like, don't come back too fast. And I was like, you don't want me here? He said, no, I want you to take a little time for yourself. So he was like, go get a coffee at the coffee shop or something. For me, I don't mind coffee. I love coffee, but I would much rather hop into the thrift stores. And that's not as easy to do with the toddler. At least me, I'm one track choo-choo train. I don't do well trying to focus on taking care of our son and doing a task like shopping like that, where I'm just trying to browse and see what's there. So anyway, I got to go to the thrift store yesterday by myself, which was so fun. I ran into a friend. We stood there talking for like almost an hour. But while I was there, I actually saw a couple of books that were cross-stitch patterns, like 80s and 90s. I did see a couple that I liked, but I wasn't like in love with any of them so much that I wanted to add more patterns right now. I'm heavily in the process of purging a lot of things from our home, and I'm like, unless I'm in love with it, I'm not purchasing it. So I did find this photo album, and it had those papers that have the clear plastic thing you pull down and it's kind of adhesive and you stick your photos on it. But I took those out and put in my paper patterns. So some of these are literally just the print of the photo, not the whole pattern yet. I haven't printed the whole pattern off, and so that way I remember, oh, I purchased this pattern or made this pattern, I want to stitch it, and then I can go back and actually stitch it and remember I have it. So I've got some fun, I'll show you those. Those are the actual pattern on the back. This was such a fun way to house my patterns that I have printed off. So this is not cross stitch. I don't even know if it's hand done or if it's machine done. My guess is it's machine done, but I'm not sure. But I just thought it was really pretty and reminded me of needlework. So it came home with me for $1. And then I've purchased a couple of patterns. I feel like my Flosstube today is literally like stuff. Like, you ever felt like your whole Flosstube is just that? But it's all been fun things. So I purchased a new creation pattern by Allison. And it is, when I saw this one, I was just like, oh. So on Instagram, I said, you know, that little ribbon button on the side, when somebody posts something, I saved it when she showed a sneak peek of it weeks ago. I was like, whenever that comes out, I am buying that pattern. So I bought this pattern. My printer's out of ink and low battery, and I have not replaced it yet, so I have not printed it off and gotten it ready yet, but I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And I know she released it for Easter, but this is something that I personally would keep up in my house year-round. So that's my plan. I don't have plans to start it yet at this point. I haven't even kitted it up. But, yeah. And then there was another pattern that I purchased, not on Etsy, on a whole nother website I've never heard of before, that Janet Jabber was talking about the pattern, showing it, and I was in love with it. And I cannot remember the name of the pattern currently or the designer, so I wouldn't even be able to search for it. I'll show you that another time. But that is, I think, kind of everything. It was a really short Flosstube for me. But such is life sometimes. Not getting a ton of stitching time in, and when I do have stitching time, sometimes my eyes are just too tired. But God has been gracious, and it's exciting to be moving forward with what our plans are, and everything is starting to fall into place, which is really nice. There's still some big things that haven't fallen into place, which is not as nice, so trying to be patient in that. I think the lesson I'm learning a lot right now is living in today, investing in today, and doing what's in front of me for today, and not stressing and worrying about tomorrow, because that we don't hold that. That is not in our hands, and as someone who follows Christ, Scripture talks about that. I don't think it's wrong to plan at all, and we need to be wise, but it's okay to also just rest in the Lord today and trust that He's got everything else in hand. So that's kind of where our life is at right now, but we're enjoying the spring weather. Snow is supposed to be coming in, I think, this weekend, but we're going to enjoy the sunshine while we still have it. So I think that's everything I have today, but thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy your next Flosstube. See you later.